So, let me introduce myself. I'm going to start this off by saying I am a loser. So, it's basically, the idea behind it is that I lost, out of the last 2,000 days, I lost probably about 1,500 days. And it's that, like I got into that mode of really enjoying that journey of losing every day. And it's because then you realize that it's basically only money that you lose. And so basically that's my introduction. And I dropped out of university when I was 17 or 18. And because I didn't really feel like that was the right thing for me, I didn't really feel like that was purpose driven. I didn't really feel like that's something I want to do in the long term. And there was no real option. And the only thing I really liked at the time was playing poker. And so I got into it, and I was like, okay, let's just try this out. And it was actually in the beginning, I was living off maybe 300 euros and just like living in a really small room, eating like toast bread with ketchup and spaghetti all day. So it was like a very interesting time where I was just like, okay, somehow I still enjoy this because I was doing the thing that I wanted to do. And it's the fun part where it says I'm not a gambler, but I think at that time it was kind of like gambling, but it developed into taking it serious and being like, okay, this is my passion, and I'm gonna keep doing this for a long time. So how do I approach this and be professional about it? And it's really that, I think that journey that started there took me it got me realizing that losing is something, or financially losing something is really just a very small part of it. And every single day when I lost something, I learned something about myself and I grew as a person. And yeah, so I'm a loser. And the one thing really in that time was that you basically have to take risks on a constant basis. So it grew from me, like I was in a small town in Germany, and I was really like, everyone around me was telling me like, hey, this is a terrible idea. You've been doing this for 1 year now, you've been not making any money, like go back to university, do something properly. And there was like, actually the only person that really supported me all the way was my mother. And she was like, you know, just do what you feel like you want to do. And I took a risk. And I was like, okay, I just want to go all in with this. And so, yeah, from then on, I was like, okay, January 1st, I'm just going on a world trip. And I quit everything I have. I leave behind my apartment, I leave behind my friends, and I'm just going on this journey and see where it takes me. And so I did that, and I maybe had a couple €1,000 to my name. Actually, through playing, it went like a little better. I was like, okay, I do that now. And then I relocated, I met some cool people, moved in with them in Vienna. And that's probably the risk that I took that paid off the most in my life, because I went on taking risks for a couple $100,000 on a constant basis. So like really this developed into me becoming a professional poker player, taking it serious and building that surrounding around me where I could excel. So it was like changing that frame that where everyone was telling me you cannot become successful with this, to actually people that share that passion and really be like, talking about it every day and spending every single minute on it. It was really like I was breathing it. When I was sleeping, I was dreaming of it, and every single day I was like, that's the one thing I want to spend my time on, and that was paid off. And then the next thing, Jan introduced it really nicely, is decision making, because that's actually the thing where I feel like we do that way more often than a lot of other people, and it's so close to entrepreneurship. You have to just dissect every decision you make into little pieces and take out look at the individual little things and try to optimize every little thing. And I felt like there's so much potential to optimize this. And I took it, I started with it on like the small base, like the small frame of poker, and then I took it to the bigger picture of making decisions in life. And the one thing I came across was that making conscious decisions is a very important thing for me. Is that I sit down and I'm like, okay, this is a decision I made, and I know exactly which factors got me there. It's like, I know, okay, this is the reason why I made this decision, and I'm happy with it. So to really just focus on the process. And the important part about that is because, as I said before, you just lose all the time. Like every single day, it's just a punch in the face. It's really like you lose money until you win. And that constant pressure, you have to switch something to like focus on the good things, because actually every day is nice, you know, like I had an amazing life, and I still do. And so it's like this part of really focusing on the decision-making process rather than the result at the end. And that led me to a place where I could really be like happy with either outcome, because I was happy with the decision. So it was like breaking down this decision into risk again, right? Like, did I take the right amount of risk? Do you feel like this was appropriate risk in that specific situation? And like, do I want to feel that way? And I think that's also a big question that like I now ask myself on a constant basis is, do I want to be this way? It's like when I make a decision, when I do something, that's the main question I ask myself is this something I can identify myself with? And not the result, the outcome. It's like, yes, lost a lot of money, or like it was a bad outcome, but I'm happy with the decision I made. And to that as well comes a really, really big part in poker that now I'm very happy that I like invested so much time in this, is the reflection part. Because you're under so much constant pressure of constantly like being put on the spot, like you constantly have to perform under really high pressure. And so the idea is to sit back and like there's going to come up a lot of tilt. It's really like we call it tilt in poker. It's basically when you're just, you know, this situation, you're just annoyed. Just like everything sucks and you just don't really want to continue. And I think everyone's been in this spot before. And really poker puts you in this spot way more often than like every other endeavor, I feel like. And so I started, and I think this is something that I can really highly suggest is in this exact moment, like doing it afterwards. So it's like, we all have these moments where we're like, oh, in that situation, or in negotiation, or talking in front of a lot of people, and then you're becoming nervous, you're emotional, and you can't really, like, you don't really perform the way you thought about it before. And really, the main thing that I did was every time I'm in this situation, I wrote it down. I was really like tackling it in this moment to create a habit of improving in that specific situation. So whenever I was really angry at something that happened in poker, so it was like, you just lost a lot of money, and someone else won a lot of money from you. And so it's this case of like, it's fine. That's the way the game is set up, and that's what I have to deal with, because that's part of the game. That's the reason why I can make money with this, is because worse players can win against me. And so really injecting this logic on a constant basis, that's what I did in basically every like decision or situation that happened to me where I felt bad about it. So it was like, inject logic while it happens. So why is it fine that, you know, sometimes people hurt you, or sometimes bad things happen, but it's fine that it is like this, because there's also great things. There's also good things that happen to us all the time. And so then another big thing that I really feel like I took from poker to the outside is, and also now the company that I started, because that's actually a really big part is time. I think time is the most valuable resource we have. And so also in terms of decision making, I really felt like money is not the driving factor for me. Like the driving factor is what I'm passionate about, like all the things that I'm interested in. And money is really just making sure that it's a very high competition. It's really that everyone takes it serious. That's why I love poker, is because everyone that played really took it serious and takes it serious all the time. And so about time, like there was a certain point where I really felt like this is not really giving me much. Although I made a lot of money with it, and I could continue and make more money with it than I would now make with my company. It's really that moment where I felt like the thing that I really enjoy about it is the competition on like the very highest level. And so that's why from one day to another, I decided to cut from playing probably 2,500 hours a year, traveling to like lots of different countries, 150 flights a year, playing nonstop, to just playing like 300 hours a year. Because I felt like in this top 10, 20% of my time, I made about 50% of my value. And it was really that I could focus on this time and get way more. So I was basically buying time. I invested 50% of what I make, and I bought 80, 90% of my time, which I now can spend on something that I really enjoy. And so now I took like the highest value hours out of this, and basically now I can focus on other things that I really enjoy and can take a lot of value out. So time, I think, is something, always be flexible. Like for myself, it's always like, there's always no as an option. Even if it feels like there is not, there is always an option. And you can always make the decision to get out of it and decide to do something else. And for everyone else, like I think we're all going to be losing at a certain point, and you will get hit, and it's going to feel that at a certain point. But I think that there's a lot of people here. You're going to be successful, and I think it's important to invest in yourself. Like really spend your time on yourself. Really think about: are you doing this for someone else, or are you doing this for yourself? And go out and succeed. Be successful. Don't be a loser.
Thank you so much. We actually have a minute. Come on, back on stage. So, as you're so good at reflecting, obviously, take a seat. What is something that you have reflected about where we really haven't found a solution yet? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, you can scream.
Can you say it again?
You're good at reflection, right? Obviously. What is the topic that you have reflected about? You really thought about it over and over again, but you still don't know how to tackle it?
Relationships.
So I think that's it. Do we have anyone in the room? Okay, anyone who knows fantastic women who will join the Oktoberfest, please help that wonderful woman.
Relationships are a very difficult topic, but I think it's one of the most important as well.
I totally agree. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.